So it went from 100 employees to a couple thousand within a couple of years.
That growth, you have to have a great recruiting strategy, but you also have to have great employees.
You have to be super authentic with your company's core values rather than the traditional ones that people talk about.
All right, today on the Business Blitz podcast, we're joined by Trenton. Trenton, could you give us a quick background on yourself and the business you're currently running right now?
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate it, Colin. My name is Trenton Hughes, couple-time founder of a couple different companies, one called Helpware, another called Station Entertainment. Failed my way into growing these businesses. Both of them done multi-million in revenue a year. One of them grew to over a couple thousand employee company. And then, now I invest, and we have a portfolio company called Unfounded Ventures where we invest in a bunch of stuff and we start stuff. And one of those is a company called Tribe, which is a network for entrepreneurs. So my whole thing is about helping entrepreneurs at this point.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned failed my way into growing these businesses. I like how you said that. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, I think I started as a young founder, and a lot of founders do, and just didn't know what the heck I was doing. So learned the hard way. You try a bunch of stuff, you see what sticks, and then you go from there. But I had a couple times where we almost went out of business. One of my businesses, we were like net 90 in terms of payment terms. So we're not getting paid till 90 days after the work is being done. And meanwhile, we have big payroll and office expenses and all these different things. So it can really create some cash flow issues, and cash flow issues can kill your business, as I've learned. That's just like one small one. Also had big clients potentially cancel and feel like we're about to go bankrupt because a big client canceled. I don't know. There's a million different things. I've had to pivot a bunch of different times, but typically you throw a bunch of stuff out, see what works, and then really refine in once you figure out what works, sometimes by chance.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've had similar experiences. Just learn by failing and learn from those failures. Don't repeat those failures. And that's the quickest way to progress, in my experience. And it seems like you agree with that sentiment. Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably guilty of sometimes repeating the failures, but I try not to, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I want to hear about a pivotal time in your professional career that kind of shaped, or personal, that shaped who you are today. A pivotal moment.
Yeah. It's funny. I think a lot of the pivotal moments are, when we're backed up against the wall in things that aren't going right. So I think one of them that really sticks out to me at that company, Helpware, that really took off and grew at the beginning stages, is me and a co-founder really doing a lot of this, the work ourselves. And we had a decent amount of employees, maybe about 100 at that time, but we were about to lose our potential biggest customer. Meanwhile, I was actually out in Kiev, living in Kiev at that time. Truthfully, as a founder of a early stage company, I was making very little money. In fact, I was making a lot less than I did in corporate. But I really believed in the team and the vision and everything. But at a certain point, I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I even wrote up my resignation letter because I was like, this is just not going to work. Like, we're about to lose our biggest client. I'm out here just slaving away, away from family, away from my wife, away from everyone else in this other country, and spending too many hours doing it. And it basically decided I'm going to quit. I couldn't figure out why I was doing it anymore. Ended up having a whole bunch of health issues at that time too. And a lot of it's just like overwork and stress. Had some interesting conversations with some people though. And the investor actually pulled me aside and said, hey, like, let's reconsider this. What do you need? And he had this good thing of like, when everything's kind of going wrong in your life, it's good for you to latch on to like something at least. And maybe before like quitting this, just give it a try to make this your one thing that you latch onto and keep stability with. Because if you, on top of everything else, let go of your career, could go wrong. And essentially he was like, all right, we're going to give you guys 6 months to kind of go run it the way you want to run it. And see how you want to do it. Decided to stay with the company at that point. And that company ended up skyrocketing in growth. We changed a lot of things, the way we did things. I kind of doubled down and recommitted. But I mean, we ended up being, couple thousand employee company not too long after that. So it went from, 100, 200 employees to a couple thousand within a couple of years about. So it definitely, and then it changed my whole trajectory from a career perspective, a learning perspective, financial perspective, and a bunch of other stuff. So it was tough, but learned a lot.
That's an amazing story. Yeah, really awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I want to hear a little bit about that growth from 100 employees to 1,000, because you have to have a great recruiting strategy, but you also have to have great employees. So like, I know you're big on core values. Tell me a little bit about what you look for when hiring.
Yeah, it's massive. I think one of the most underutilized ways to like grow a business is actually to just focus on the culture of your company. Now, I'll be honest, I think that was easier when people were primarily in offices. With remote, it gets a little trickier to build your culture, but I think it's still possible. But this is, pre-COVID, we still had offices. So we just focused on really paying our employees better than others in the industry. We focused on having really cool offices. We focused on having better perks, better incentives. And then every single day, we talked about how much we valued and cared about our employees, which like didn't maybe seem like that big saying out loud, but in a lot of these industries, it's massive because they don't hear that a lot. And when you continually just reinforce that, hey, culture is paramount to us and it's the number one thing we're focused on, you can start to recruit better because everyone wants to work there. And you have a bunch of referrals and reviews from Glassdoor, and all of a sudden you just have this influx of tons and tons of employees. But yeah, what we found was that, a good employee often wasn't dictated by experience, but actually their core values. And you have to be super authentic with your company's core values. Like if you're big on urgency, you should be talking about that rather than the traditional ones that people talk about, like teamwork and things like that. Find the things that are unique and then find the people that uniquely fit into those core values. So from a leadership perspective, we definitely found people that were bought into this like bigger mission. They were bought into wanting to treat people well and to build a big and good culture. And they were really driven by wanting to help. I think when you look at like people that are looking at it from a selfish perspective of how much money do I make and, how are my perks, it totally makes sense that you would want that. But when you're looking at leaders, you want to look at the ones that are a little bit more selfless, that are more caring about the mission, the cause, the people around them, because they're going to put in a ton of work for their people. And we just got lucky and found a ton of those in all the businesses that we've created, truthfully.
That's awesome. That's big. How do you, in an interview process, how do you test or monitor for core values?
I mean, yeah, whatever your core values are, you can probably find online like some questions that will warrant whether or not someone has that core value. And so like for one of them, maybe it's proactivity. And so one of the questions that, I would ask is, do you like to ask for permission before doing something or beg for forgiveness? That answer is going to tell you a lot about how that person thinks. And so you don't just ask them straight up, like, do you value integrity? You give them a situation that warrants whether or not they go with an integrity type of answer or go with a proactivity type of answer. And so generally what we would do is 3 questions on each core value. And then what I'm also looking for is we usually do test tasks. We're looking for how responsive the people are after an interview, of getting the test tasks in on time, of how they go about doing their test tasks. So there's a lot of different things that we're looking at. And for me, like one of the biggest things is like if someone takes a long time to reply back after an interview or after we've emailed them, that's a red flag. People might overlook it all the time, but it's a massive red flag for me. So we're just looking for little small details rather than the actual experience and the actual answers that they're giving.
That's awesome. I really like that 3 situational questions. Okay, I want to know, what is the best investment you've made in your career so far?
I would say go unconventional, and I'll just say in a bunch of books. I think people talk about books a lot being okay uses of time, or they can change the way that you think about things. But for me, I reference all kinds of different books in the way that I think about now building businesses at this point. And for the first few years of my career, I didn't have time to read books. And so I didn't have all of this knowledge. But what I started to realize is like these experts in the industries have given us, gifts of these books that can change the way we operate our businesses. So there's some great ones out there like Traction or Ikigai or The Science of Getting Rich or Grit or Relentless or Extreme Ownership. Like all these different things are massive and you can implement them in small ways into your businesses. And it's almost like cheat codes. Like, I don't feel like we used to have this type of access. Maybe I'm wrong, 30, 40, 50 years ago as business owners. And now we do. Alex Hormozi has some great books too. So to me, and I think maybe a lot of it's like validation of ideas that we sort of have, but then hearing them actually be fleshed out has been massive. So I've probably spent thousands of dollars on books, but I would say that the actual like use cases of those has paid off in dividends. Made some other investments and things too, but a lot of my investments are like actual money investments or longer term returns that I'm looking at. So nothing that's like, wow, that's paid off massively from a money perspective.
Yeah, I like that answer. I'm a big book guy. Always listen to Audible in the car when I'm driving to turn that unproductive time into productive time. That's how I see it. So big advocate for that. What is one goal you're currently focused on achieving?
Back at being a founder again with Tribe. I thought I was more in the investment game, but we're back founding another company. Big goal of trying to grow it. So I kind of have these goals of getting it to thousands of members, and it's pretty daunting, truthfully, to go from a company with 0 members to now about 100, and looking at how to get it to thousands. It's a heck of a challenge to look at, and we're trying to take it in bite-sized bits. But I think that it's definitely consuming a lot of my thought process at this point and time. Yeah. And ultimately, in the past, we've built great businesses based on experience and uniqueness. So trying to do that, I guess. Definitely.
And for our viewers, I'm also a member of Tribe. It's a peer group of business owners, just to remind you. So yeah, I'm in it. I'm a huge advocate for Tribe. Definitely recommend if you're a founder or business owner. And I noticed, Trenton, that you are bringing on a lot of investors. Can you tell me about what your strategy is there? I guess maybe more in advisory roles. Can you tell us about what you're doing there?
Totally. I feel like it's a cheat code if you can't, I think people look at investment as a way to validate their concept of, I made something that now has proof that people want it. And that's not the way to go about it. Like Silicon Valley, kind of has a big part of doing that. If you get a VC, then okay, you're a legit company. That's not the way that I'm looking at it. Truthfully, I like to bootstrap and build scrappy, because investors, when you do have investors, a lot of times you kind of have bosses essentially, or people that you need to report up to. We've had a ton of people reach out in this business to invest. And for me, it's like, all right, can we hack our way into growing this thing by creating a kick butt team of advisors / investors who have a stake in this company, who also have massive networks of other entrepreneurs who are well respected in this industry, and kind of become the go-to player in that space because of that. So yeah, we've brought on now 4 investors who all have pretty good followings. I think across all of our followings combined, we're likely over 1 million followers between us, and they're all business types of people that are following for the most part. So looking at it really strategically. And the great thing about everyone is we've all kind of been beaten down from whether they're Nick or Chris or Kyle. We've all had failures along the way. And so we understand what having a bad investor is like and what having a good investor is like. And so far, we're all just on the same page, bought into the mission, and no one's trying to step on each other's toes, which is great.
I don't know if you don't have to share this information, but are you raising like small minority stakes, or what does that look like? What is your strategy there?
Yeah, small minority stakes to bring in these key players at this point. We don't need investment. So, a lot of it is going to be used for just hiring the team out at this point, but it's more so for the networking. So to me, like I said, I think that companies could leverage this type of thought process and model if they, look at maybe giving up 5%, 10% of their business across a few different key players to get them bought in. And then of course you have to have a big vision. Like they wouldn't necessarily be interested in this unless I had a big vision for what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to thousands of members and build something substantial here. I think if it was going to be a small thing, they wouldn't be super stoked about it.
I've been thinking about it for some of my stuff as well. So yeah, that's awesome. Appreciate you sharing that.
Probably onto something there then.
Yeah. We talked about thousands of members, and I kind of just want to, like, what is that? Have you planned out, or do you have a vision for what those next steps look like for your business tribe in the next 5 to 10 years? You want to get to thousands of members. How are you going to get there, and what is going to be the value driver?
Yeah, I mean, at the onset now, it's a lot of referrals has been what's brought people in. And so the next steps of how we're going to grow this thing, we're going to leverage our networks. We have pretty decent sized networks of entrepreneurs and leverage the referrals as well. We're building a cool new referral program where instead of money, we're trying to give people trips if they refer us enough members. So it's a lot easier to potentially make someone incentivized to do that versus a little bit of money. But then also we're going to start doing a lot more in-person events in local cities. So we're coming out to you in Tampa, St. Pete area here soon. But we're going to be doing a bunch of local meetups and workshops and things. And that'll be for the tribe members, but also to network with other entrepreneurs outside of tribe and to really just start to get to know everyone in this SMB as well as startup space across the country. So I'm excited about it. And then really, like, in order to get to thousands of members, you start breaking these down. Any company can do this. You start breaking down how many do you need per month to get to that. You know, it's really only going to need to be about 10, eventually maybe 20 a month new members. It's not crazy numbers. And if you can get your footprint out there enough and get enough referrals, I think it becomes possible. For us, we have a little bit of a challenge where we don't just take anyone. We're at about 20%, less than 20% acceptance rate. So 80% of the people that apply, unfortunately, will not be a fit for us. So we have to even get more and more applicants than whatever 20 that apply. But still, I think it's going to be doable.
Well, actually, let's tell the audience, if we want to learn more from you, Trenton, where can we learn more? Websites, social medias, where are you active?
Similar to Colin, I'm active on X, pretty active, but I've also recently started every other platform just to try to get content out there and help people. So following in your footsteps, Colin. We've got YouTube, Instagram, Threads, TikTok now, Facebook Reels, even Blue Sky. We're on all of them at this point. I think that it's what's fun about it though is like, we grew a decent following. I think between LinkedIn and X now I probably have like 14,000 followers between the two. But to start from zero, maybe you feel the same, is actually pretty fun because you're speaking to only a few people on, say, YouTube, where you only have a few followers on there, and it can help you tailor your message, but also gets you back to thinking like a beginner of like, all right, how do I go network and meet with a whole bunch of people and give value rather than just rely on my following. So it's been fun. Right. You feel the same?
I do. Yeah, I do. And I actually want to ask about Blue Sky because I have not looked at that platform at all, but it seems to be growing really fast. What's your experience there?
It does seem to be growing really fast. There's a decent exodus from X right now over sort of the political landscape of X and how much it favors political posts, especially right-wing posts. So a lot of people that don't want that are moving over to Blue Sky. I don't know. It seems like it's pretty similar, truthfully, as a platform, but it's got a very fast-growing market share. I would not be surprised if it sticks. Like some of the stuff in the past, like Clubhouse and others, like they'll pop up for a quick second and they go away. This one I think might have sticking power. I could be wrong, but I think it probably will.
Interesting. I better get going on Blue Sky then.
The only problem with Blue Sky at this point is it's not heavy on business. So it depends on what you're trying to talk about. I think that out over there is just like what Twitter used to be, maybe, which was just like life. and now there's all these different niches within X and Twitter, and Blue Sky is building out. But I think if you're an early person, you're actually committed to not just posting, but like engaging and building a community, you could crush over there. I think you could absolutely crush. But it's like doing the basics. It's not posting a whole bunch. It's because people aren't there to like just look at your posts. It's like these are actually people trying to make friends, it feels like over there.
Gotcha. That's really interesting. Definitely have to check that out.
Yep.
All right, Trenton, thanks for hopping on today. We'll have your links in the comment below this video. Really appreciate you. And thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If you found value in this video, click subscribe below for more business content just like this.